Before we start taping the show today, I wanted to take a few seconds to say a few words to our friends south of the border. You didn't have a really good week last week. I can only hardly imagine what has changed in your lives with the tragedies that you experienced and how it must be affecting your everyday. So you may be hesitating on trying something new. You may be hesitating on how you go about your day. You may be hesitating on the route that you take to work. You start to second guess yourself. You start to act differently. You start to question those around you, question those you hear on media, and things just don't seem the same anymore. And that's not how it should be. One of the reasons that we started this podcast, and yes, it's still a lot of fun with food, wine, and travel, we really wanted to kind of open up the world to other people, to new places, new ideas, new flavors. And if things at home are holding you back from trying those new things and experiencing life, that really makes us sad. So we're really hoping that things can change for you over the next week or so, that you'll start to see some positivity. You'll want to take that little gamble and go out and try to start your day like you normally did. Just letting you know that we up here are thinking about you and we're wishing you all the best. And we really hope that you have nothing but better days ahead. Wine's kicking in. Clap on, clap off.
Clapper.
Okay, so I cut out the clap and you're not seeing it, but welcome to Flying for Flavor. I'm your host, Stephanie Piche, and Stacey and Deke are here to keep me company while Cynthia is away in Australia still. And we had a couple of things I wanted to cover. I think we're going to go straight to the show because we have so much we need to share today. And I'm hoping that we have a couple of local business people piping in. I thought we did a show on online reviews. Didn't we? Did we talk about one or did we do?
I don't remember.
I think we touched on a little bit about travel.
Maybe,
Yes.
but I don't think we went into detail.
No, we didn't. So this one will be awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about people's inability to take a breath. And this new need to, if you get upset with somebody in a business or you had a bad experience, you race to your computer and post it on Facebook, you tweet it, as opposed to the old days where you just email your friend and call your friend to vent. Now it's like, I'm going to type it up and spread the word. But unfortunately, what's happening is some of these viral things that are going on are getting a little out of hand. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is because I was talking to a friend of mine who just was kind of like, say, the victim of one of those things where the entire story itself was not put out with having regards to her business. And I was really impressed with how she handled it, because it went from somebody just posting that they were not happy with the service they received to over hundreds and hundreds of comments that actually got to a point where they were referencing and tagging her other personal business in there, and people were actually saying, you should go to this business and make sure you shut them down. What is it? It was getting to the point where people were threatening to shut down other people's businesses, and that's where I said, okay, whoa, like pump the brakes here, people. It's getting to be a little crazy. And I've seen the same thing happen with people commenting on stories, and I just wanted to make sure that we kind of show from the business perspective and hospitality and how it can affect people's like restaurants and hotels and tourism things.
Restaurants are true.
And how one thing can actually make or break a relationship with a client and their business. And then another times where like we don't stressing enough about the positive. So as much as you go to a place all the time and you have one bad experience, I don't see anyone running to their computers to go and sing the praises of something that they had that was great, right?
Right.
It should, right? It should be, okay.
Yeah.
So that was my little rant. So started. Wine's just kicking in. Oh, speaking of wine, we got to start with what we're drinking. And Deeks had a long day, so he went straight for a shock top. So he came in and just bypassed. He ignored the wine on the table. So more for Stacey and I. So I wanted to feature
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Casadilla is a winery in Prince Edward County here in Ontario. You can't get these at the LCBO, but I had one of these from my last trip down there. It is a extra reserve Cabernet Franc blend. So they don't say what the other little grape varietals are. And of course, I didn't take notes when I was there last time. So the town that it's from actually is Wellington, Ontario, if you want to look it up. This is pricing at about $34.95 a bottle. This is the 2014, and you can order directly on their website. So I'll have a link in the show notes for you. And of course, the show links are going to be showing up below, but it's stephaniepichet.ca/flavor2-8. That's how we're referencing them, Dee, because you weren't here the last time.
I'm referencing his $34 wine, and I want some.
And when you're doing that, you might as well.
Jeez, if I told you it was 1995 wine snob, you wouldn't have had it.
I think I'm going to order a case. I really enjoy this.
It was nice, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. Especially with the holidays coming up.
Yes, that'd be a perfect wine.
Yeah. Oh, they like a really good like roast beef dinner and okay. So and I love the name of it. It's called Amore,
Cheers.
which I thought was awesome.
Cheers, Steph.
Oh, cheers. Cheers. Ching, 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 ching. The three of us haven't been in the same room together in a while.
I know.
Yeah.
We do like separates.
Last time I was locked in the room with
It's-
Cynthia for
it's-
an hour. Imagine that.
I left the two of them alone in here with alcohol and cocktails and things.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, well, there's worse things, right? Okay. There's always drinks here. Okay, so I always like the phrase, a reputation takes a lifetime to develop, but an instant to destroy.
Yeah.
So the success or lack of when it comes to a business has to do, unfortunately, with today's shopping habits, has a lot to do with reviews. And I got some really cool stats. There is, I'll tell you a story first. You guys remember the story not that long ago about the Norvik Motel this summer.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just outside of Sudbury, there's a little motel, and I'll put a link to the article, the latest article in there, so you can get the whole story. But I guess there's some lady who decided to vent on Facebook that the hotel kicked her husband out while there were forest fires happening here. So just like there were a lot of fires this summer throughout North America, we also had some just outside of the city here. Perry Sound 33 is what the district was called.
Right.
And because there were a lot of other fire teams and fire bombers and stuff coming into the area, there's a need for a lot of accommodation for these people who were coming in just to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
So because she happened to mention that his clothes smelled like smoke, all the people on Facebook misunderstood her and thought that her husband was a firefighter and that this motel was kicking him out because his clothes smelled like smoke too much. And it turns out that's not what happened. But in the meantime, not only did the thing go viral because this woman actually asked people to share it, make it viral, and shut this business down, but she also went out of her way. Other people started jumping on it and sharing it with their friends. And this hotel was a brand new owners. I think they only owned it or purchased it at the beginning of the season.
Wow.
So they were new to the area. It's a family-run business. They were getting hate mail, crank calls, death threats, all kinds of racist comments and stuff left for them. It went sneaky.
Like wildfire.
Sneaky. Okay, bad pun. But it just went like
You should
just
leave that alone.
yeah, that was just
Let's not
crazy.
go on a brand
Let's-
today.
Too soon.
Yes, still a little touchy. But it was such a sad thing to see how one little Facebook post, and this woman, even though people were commenting about her husband and the fire, not once did she decide, I'm going to correct them and explain that no, he's not a firefighter.
She probably didn't even go back on.
But she was for a little bit, because she was basically trying to defend her thing, even though some people were telling her to calm down. She was trying to defend herself until people started pointing things out. And then reporters started going to the motel, asking questions, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so through the magic of journalism, the actual real story came out. And I guess he worked for a different industry, but he was still working in the area. And I guess he was a smoker, and he was in a non-smoking room. And he had requested a smoking room, but there wasn't any left. So he had to go to a different hotel because there was no other smoking rooms. And the owner did not want him. He was constantly just sitting outside his motel, right? And smoking in the section that was a non-smoking section. So it was, I guess, the guy was very polite about it. He refunded money to him. The owner actually did everything right. But unfortunately, things just snowballed. And I'm just really suspicious. I'm thinking, was there like any backstory on this that, like, the husband doesn't pipe up and say anything? So she just gets a call from her husband that, sorry, honey, I had to move hotels because the owner kicked me out, with no other story.
It's possible.
Right? And then
Right.
all of a sudden
Yeah.
he's on, oh, sorry.
Something seems a little fishy.
Maybe I've watched too many movies.
No.
Not too many
No.
movies. Made a little too suspicious.
It's a reality
Anyways,
show.
it was just an example of how things go wrong. So, Do you guys know of any other stories of things that went hairy scary recently? Friends that have you ever vented about a business online? I can say I have. I'm going to be honest about it. I did it with a Chinese restaurant, and it was not the fact about the delivery. It was the fact that I kept getting hung up on when I was calling. So I had no other way to reach them.
Right.
And I was getting angry at the fact that I was calling and they kept telling me, and they actually swore at me and kept hanging up the phone. So that's the point where I went and said, okay, I've tried to resolve this with you. So all I did was talk about the story. I didn't badmouth the business in itself, saying this is the experience that I had. And I don't think it was handled properly.
Right.
You know, a good example of how things can go sideways with media and people talking was the closure of Casey's on the Kingsway. Yes, when there was a situation with one of the people in the kitchen ended up contracting, was it HEP, I believe, or something?
Yes, and it had nothing to do with the restaurant.
It was brought in externally, but the public health unit did not actually say anything about it. They knew it came from her previously and had nothing to do with the restaurant. It ended up, I mean, I connected, whatever, but the thing is, at the end of the day, you end up destroying people's livelihoods, investments. How do you start over?
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's a perfect example of how things can go sideways when the person that knows the issue should stand up and say something. I believe the Sudbury Public Health Unit should have said it didn't come from the restaurant.
And they did, but later.
When the restaurant was closed and all the people ended up losing their jobs. I mean, it really is a lot of investments lost. And I think it's sad when those things happen. So I feel for the people at the Norvik Hotel because it's a similar situation, but different.
Yeah, and I think that it has to do with, it's like the old game of telephone, right? How rumors tend to go crazy, right? You tell one person and then they're telling their friend, but of course, a couple of the details change from one person to the next. And that's exactly what happens even with social media stuff when it's sharing and people have comments and then they hear a story and then they post something, right? And then it just gets to be this long train of stories that was never what the intent was in the first place.
Absolutely.
Which is not cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, further to that one story about the Casey's, it came from a tainted, I think it was vegetable or fruit from Costco. That's where it originated from. So let's get our details and let's actually be honest about it. And you know, and then later on beyond the end of it was that Costco had a million different recalls for the same reason. And it's just, I mean, FYI, right?
Well, and I think one of the reasons that's why I wanted to, I think my biggest tip is just like you wouldn't scream at somebody immediately when something bad happens to you, take a breath, stop for a minute. It's like impulse shopping, right? If you're going to go and buy something, right, you always say, I can't really do this right now. I'll leave. And if I still want it, I'll go back. Same idea. If you've had a bad experience with a restaurant, you step away from it. If you don't want to do something, if you didn't have the balls to say anything to the manager about bad service at the time,
then you shouldn't be doing it online.
Then you shouldn't be going home and doing it there either, because
Absolutely.
it doesn't give a chance to the business owner to rectify the situation. Or if it has to do with a service level, your server doesn't get a chance to rectify it. And part of the whole idea of customer service is for them to allow to serve you. And if they don't get a chance to do that or to fix it, it's like a no-win situation. You get bad service, they get a bad reputation, and there's no win for anybody.
It's too easy, right?
It is easy. But I always think that, surprisingly, you may think that business owners don't want to hear. There are some, I have to say, that don't want to, they don't like hearing anything negative. I've actually seen business owners who, I know that there's been negative reviews on their Facebook pages or Yelp reviews, and they went in and got rid of them. Or they flood them with positive reviews to drown out the bad ones, right?
Oh, yes.
Which is, anyways, there's all kinds of sneaky things. And if you really want to learn other techniques, you can just Google them. I'm not going to share them here because I don't agree with it, but yes, you can find them. Okay. I found some stats on this website called Vendasta.com. I'm going to put the link in the show notes too. And I pulled out, they had 50 different stats about online reviews. And I didn't list all 50. We're not doing that here today, but I thought there was some that I thought were kind of cool. Because I was going to say, here we go. I'm going to run now.
Just kidding.
I wouldn't make you sit here listen to 50 stats. Please. Okay. First one. More than 88% of online shoppers incorporate reviews into their purchase decision.
Really?
Yep. So that's a big one. We can take a drink every time I do a stat.
Yeah.
You're playing a drinking game.
It's a new game.
Okay, you're not making this fun.
You're at Flying for Flavor. Anything we know that we haven't known before, we're just gonna.
Okay, here's another one. Oh, that's something you didn't know before, but that's gonna be easy. So, his 100% of customers over $150,000 annual income. Okay, so every single person who makes over $150,000 in this study claim to leave reviews when it comes to poor customer service experience. In other words, those who make more money feel it's their right. They are the ones who are leaving.
Oh,
they feel, so it does have to do with income level and entitlement, I guess.
Wow.
Interesting. So
interesting.
You got a drink for that one. That was fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. Now so this is just general information about where these online reviews. So 3 online platforms dedicated reviews have most of the global traffic, and of course they're Yelp, TripAdvisor, and Foursquare. Never used Foursquare. That's not my thing. I think you just check in at places, eh?
Checked in TripAdvisor.
Do you know, though, they actually have really good deals every now and then. You can actually, if you check in, you get a free app or you do different things. I did it when I was in the States, but, I mean, it was only for the free apps and stuff. Glass of wine. Here and there.
Take it. TripAdvisor I've used on occasion, and it's only for... I'm trying out a new resort in a new area or something, or I'm going someplace new and I'm not quite sure. And I need to know things like, how's the Wi-Fi? Because sometimes they say they have good Wi-Fi, but they don't. So TripAdvisor, somebody at some point, if there was a problem with the Wi-Fi, they will be complaining about it. So those are I look for specifics at TripAdvisor. Other than that, I usually ignore them, mostly because people who tend to review, I find on actually most review sites, they either really, really love it or they really, really hate it. Right? There's never just here's my experience of how things were. There's a few of them out there that do that. Like they actually type out like paragraphs of every little detail that they did for the entire week that they were away.
Which restaurant, which room, what did it look, what you're going to see. I mean, granted, you're never going to be guaranteed that room if you book, but you can suggest.
But some people love sharing that kind of information, and they like having the conversations with future travelers. And I mean, if you like doing that, by all means. I used to do reviews on my website. I'm not really doing them much anymore now that we're doing the crew takes, where I'm starting to do more audio ones when we come back. But just remembering to take all the notes. It's funny how even my memory loses detail from after a week getting home. So if I don't write everything down immediately, so what I would be reviewing on or what my priorities were when I'm in the airport on my way home versus the week later when I'm taking notes. So you also got to think about when these people are leaving reviews, how much time has lapsed between their experience and the time they're leaving the review, right? So looking at the date really makes a difference, I think.
And it's interesting. You brought up a point earlier, and from the travel agent perspective, is that I get more complaints from people who spend more money on their vacation and go to a 5+ star, right? That one point, and it's true now. I mean, it's true because people all of a sudden when they get back, they want to complain because they realize maybe they picked the wrong resort for the dollar value. Maybe you need to go to a 4-star or 3-star and not spend so much. Then you just kind of go with a different attitude, right? Like I'm just going.
Yeah. Well, what do you expect? It's a 3-star,
right?
Yeah.
Versus I spend 5-star plus.
Expectations are different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and remember, as we've said before, 5 stars in one destination and 5-star in a different destination are 2 different things.
Very much so.
So again, it depends on what you're looking for and what your priorities are. Right.
But just interesting, right? Because
So money does make a factor.
I believe so.
Alrighty. So the other cool thing I thought was about Yelp. So do you know there's 26,380 reviews every minute posted by Yelp users.
Geez.
That's a lot of reviews.
That's a lot of reviews.
Hope it's not at work time.
And I'm just thinking, oh my God, that's how much are you people eating? Like, you have to be eating out a lot to do that many. Anyways, but you think of how many places have Yelp reviews, but still, that's a lot.
With Yelp, though, I was over in Europe and I found I needed to get this is so retarded, but I had to get my nails fixed. And I found a place through Yelp. And you can find things like restaurants, but you can also find spas and massages and all of that. So, I mean, it's sometimes it's a good thing.
Well, I think it was the same idea I was mentioning in the Airbnb episode last week. It was the same idea that Airbnb is now doing experiences and having restaurants and stuff, and they also rely on reviews and stuff too. So just about every place that there's an opportunity for you to get someone's feedback or for you to leave your feedback. This is answering the question why. So 26% of consumers say it's important that a local business responds to its reviews. What I got in that, meaning that very few people really care whether a business actually sees or responds to the review. In other words, my thought was, they don't care what happens next. So they're just venting to vent, right? So that means that most of the people who are leaving reviews, it's surprising how many of them saying it's actually important for a business to get back to them, which means that they don't really care about the result afterwards. They're just trying to get it off their chest.
Right.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
Yeah. See, I told you I pulled out the good ones out of the 50.
And it's, again, I hate to comment. I think I'm talking too much tonight, but
no, of course, that's what the show's. You're on a podcast.
Here we go.
We talk for a living.
Here we go. But I've noticed there's certain, again, we talked about certain restaurant. I'm not going to bring it up, but certain areas and businesses in Sudbury respond in a different manner. And I think sometimes it's best not to defend your practice. It's better to just acknowledge the fact that someone felt that way. And we're going to work on it. So the next time you come in, you're going to actually have a different experience.
What if it's really damaging? And
but there are some establishments that consistently defend, and then get angry at the person leaving the message. And I actually get to the point where I'm like, I'm not going to even go there. Like, I'm not even going to go and show my business because I get tired of it.
Yeah, and there has to do, yes, it's one thing to have a problem, it's another way of solving. You have to solve the problem, right? And also, is the person willing to, you can tell by somebody's negative review if they just want to get something off their chest or if they were actually looking for a solution, right? So when I had that experience with the Chinese restaurant, I actually posted in there that my beef was not the fact that the food was late and cold and an hour and a half late. Right. Yes, I was angry about that, but I'm a grown-ass woman. I can heat up my own food. So, right? And the food still tasted good. It was just cold and very late or whatever. It was this lack of communication, this hanging up on me when I was calling, the not checking. I mean, it was just, I could not reach them any way I could. So there was no way of getting back to them. I tried the next day, it was the same thing. So I actually put in there that I tried to resolve this another way before I left the review that way. So hopefully that changed their mind, but I tried to reach out to you, but another point was that if a business resolves its issue quickly and efficiently, 95% of unhappy customers return back to your business. So again, if you solve the problem to the point where the person is, yes, they will go back to you again. Cool. So it has to do with, don't just defend.
Right. That's a really good
and try to be right. Right.
It's not about right and wrong. It's about that person felt this way.
Yeah. Some people are more determined to be right.
True. I mean, yes, true. And also, I mean, if a restaurant has actually turned around and became your star because of the fact that you had an issue, maybe it's time then to go on the review and actually say that as well. Like, make that extra effort. Say, you know what, they did us right.
Yeah, exactly. You really like the wine, I'm guessing, eh? Because you keep looking at it.
No, I'm just curious as to what kind of wine it is.
It's Cabernet Franc. I said
Where
it was
does
an
it say
extra
that?
reserve.
I don't see it anymore.
It's not. I just know.
I've tried a Niagara in Cabernet Franc.
Yeah.
Jackson Triggs. Yeah. Honestly, I think I like it better.
It's very possible, but this is also going to be a lot darker because it's an extra reserve. It means it was held a little longer before it was released.
Mildly acidic.
Well, especially when you're having that sweet bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
It's growing on me. It's making me warm. My cheeks are getting pink. Oh, yeah, okay. So another cool stat, only 12% of people, okay, so this is online shoppers, only 12% are prepared to read more than 10 reviews versus 16% in 2014. Meaning only 10% of the people are willing to read through up to 10 reviews to help them make a decision. In other words, they're going to read the first couple of reviews and make their decision from there, or the latest review and make their decision from there. So very few people take the time to actually read through, like go to TripAdvisor and read through a full page of experiences or reviews about a place before they do it. They'll read the first two and then make a judgment based on that. So which I'm thinking like, it's like, whew, that's fast. And then 58% of consumers say they have recently, within the last 5 years, began leaving more and more online reviews based upon customer service only. So it has nothing to do with the product and service. So if you went to a restaurant, your food was great, everything else, but you just didn't, customer service wasn't the greatest. So that's why they left the negative review. So service seems to be the biggest reason that people were. So if you, even if your food's just, but your customer service is stellar, people will be less likely to leave a negative review. Interesting, right?
Absolutely.
Huh, thought that was cool.
I wonder from a totally different aspect, I wonder from like a tip ratio, how that all plays out. If you have a really great, waitress or waiter, and your food wasn't great, but their experience with that person was amazing, how does it play out for them?
Yeah.
Do you at fault the person who's serving you, or do you fault the restaurant? Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, I know what the right answer should be, but I know it's like what people. I didn't
Right.
see that stat in my list of 50.
No.
List of 50.
Maybe we should add it.
We should add it. Anyways, here's our friend Michelle Gallant from Northern Ontario PR to give some tips on how businesses can kind of handle these online reviews with class.
Online reviews are extremely helpful for any product, business, or service when done in a positive manner. But what happens when it's done in a negative one? Well, it can hurt that business, product, or service in like 5 seconds or less. When it's posted online, we all know how fast things can go viral, and people start providing their opinions on perhaps the same situation. And if the businesses don't get to them in a timely manner, it could really, really damage the reputation of that business if not addressed right away, or if not corrected right away. Now, if it's done online, you have the ability to respond really quick to that customer who might not be happy, and you can comment on it to show everyone else that you've addressed it and tried to make it right. However, once it's online, it stays there until that person who originally posted it decides that they want to take it down or not. This is why it's extremely crucial to really think about what you're posting online before you hit publish, because it does stay there and it can damage the reputation of that business. However, for the business, they need to address it in a very, very timely manner to disrupt any type of further damage that can be done.
Okay, the last little section of stats that I thought was kind of cool. This has to do with the concept of trust. Okay, and we're all trying to, for those who are listening on the podcast, we're also snacking on Chicago mixed popcorn and some sweet potato chips. So every time you hear, they're trying to crunch away from the microphone. So if you see people leaning back, that's what they're doing. They're trying to be courteous to your ears. 68% say positive reviews make them trust a local business more, versus 72% in 2014. Means it's going down. In other words, even though there's a lot of positive reviews online, less people are believing them, right? Which is just, I don't know if people are jaded. That's what I said. I said meaning less people are even trusting the good reviews. Like it just, I don't know, I didn't like that one. And then 88% trust reviews as much as personal recommendations versus 83% in 2014. So more trust reviews as much as personal recommendations, meaning people value online reviews as much as if from a family or friend.
Whoa.
Meaning that you're going to trust reviews online. That's how much influence they have, is how much somebody online, you value their opinion before you make a judgment call based on maybe a friend or family member. Isn't that wild?
Blows me away.
Yep. Over half of young people aged 18 to 34 say they trust online reviews more than the opinions of friends and family. So in other words, again, so as
their faces are in their cell phones all the time.
So 88%,
relationship.
88% of people, it's overall, it says to be trending more towards reviews, but it said it was only half of the 18 and 34. But when you read that, it's actually flip. So that means it's older people are providing a big chunk as well. So I think just more and more people are using it that way. 95% of consumers suspect censorship or faked reviews when they don't see bad scores. So if a business is rocking it and they've got a whole pile of great reviews. If they don't see bad ones floating in there, they think that it's just fake.
Well, when you see a review and there's like a ton of really bad ones and then there's this big couple of really stellar ones, that's where your flags go up and go, okay, how could that person have such a great experience where all these other people have the same experience over and over again?
Correct. And it could just be, again, level of expectation. You don't know. And that's the whole thing about reviews. You have to take them
to filter them
with a little bit of a filter, right? Your own personal filter. 30% of consumers assume online reviews are fake if there's no negative ones. Again, if there isn't any. I happen to know I've seen a couple of businesses where I've seen people post bad reviews, and when I've gone back a little while later, because some of them are really funny, sometimes people leave really funny bad reviews, like really crazy stories that happened to them or something, and then I'll go back onto the website to go, or the Yelp review or something, to go and show somebody the funny review, and it's gone. Right? So that's usually my ding, 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 right? So I don't know if the person deleted it or the business can delete it. I don't know how that works, but only reviews from families and friends are trusted more than online reviews. Reviews from experts and celebrity endorsements are trusted less than online reviews. So in other words, all these businesses and brands that are spending huge amounts of money getting someone to endorse something or have brand ambassadors, it still has less effect than the positive online reviews, or actually any online reviews that a business is getting. So that's always interesting to know. So when someone's like promoting, so when Ryan Reynolds is promoting his aviation gin, if the gin is crap,
I'll buy it.
If the gin is, she'll buy it.
I'll buy it.
She just heard Ryan Reynolds and her eyes glazed over.
Bring me a case.
So if his gin was crap, people would still be leaving reviews about the gin online. People are still more likely to listen to the strangers' reviews than Ryan Reynolds, except for Stacey.
Except for me.
Stacey will always listen to Ryan Reynolds first.
Yes.
Okay.
He's supposed to buy a mansion here in Sudbury. Did you hear that too?
Pardon?
He bought something. He bought a property here in Sudbury. There was a rumor again.
Again,
a rumor on review.
I'd be very surprised on that.
I know.
Yeah.
I just laughed. Sudbury.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I mean,
well,
he may have had a good time when he was here filming this movie, but to the point where didn't he stay like at one of the motels out for the movie? Wasn't the last movie he filmed here?
It's like,
wasn't it out in one of the? It was probably like the Norvik Motel
or the Bates Motel. Sudbury's version of the Bates
left really bad reviews because Ryan Reynolds wasn't there when they got there or something.
What? He was here?
Yeah, so one of his last movies he actually filmed in Sudbury, for those of you who are wanting to see our beautiful landscape. Okay, so tips for businesses. So,
sorry.
Unfortunately, negative reviews, of course, are picked up by the media, especially when it's a business. So if something like the Norvik Motel, because it had so much traction online, some people from the media, of course, found it and decided they were going to either investigate, interview somebody, that kind of thing. And that's kind of how as much as it made it better in the long run, I'm sure it also spiraled it, because that's how I found out about it. Wasn't Facebook. It was because it was an article in our local paper.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, then I clicked the link to go there and I read the story. Then I went and took the lady's name and I looked for her on Facebook, and I'm thinking I was doing my own little bit of Nancy Drewing myself.
Right? Like, and that's the thing that I was just going to say. Who does the Nancy Drewing or the Hardy Boy stuff that actually goes before they actually publish stuff?
Yeah.
Right? Because if that didn't go in the paper, would anybody have known? Would it have affected the business?
Well, that's the whole thing, is that if nobody looked into it, basically the lady's story probably would have stuck.
Yes.
Because it had the most traction.
True.
Right?
Yep. So there's a catch-22 in it.
Yeah.
So here's Michelle again with some other tips and stories just to wet your whistle about online reviews.
I can think of a number of negative reviews that have gone wrong, and there have been a couple here in our city that I've been in the mix of, on both sides, that it's been done to me, and then also that I've had to go in and help businesses and consult on the right procedures to try and alleviate the situation. And things explode really quick. So that's why, as managers of the social media, you have to address it right away in order to remove any, really bad repercussions that can be done to your business. And it does hurt the business when somebody makes a negative review and other people see it. So I really want to stress the point of, if you are going to make a negative review about a business, make sure that you've gone to, the manager or the business owner first to try and rectify the situation before posting an online review. Because if you didn't do that, then you didn't give that business the fair chance to try and make it right. And no, it's not right to go into a business or have a bad experience with a product or service. That's not right, and it should be all positive. However, sometimes things do happen that are beyond their control, and these things happen for any businesses. So I really want to make sure that we're giving people the chance to make it right, rectify the situation first before posting an online review. And if you did go to the business owner and they did try and make it right, you can still post about the review, but then also include all of the facts and, disclose about how they did try and make it right, to show that business that even though, something did happen that was wrong or wasn't supposed to happen, at least they tried to rectify it and addressed it right away. Because things tend to explode really quick, and it's really difficult to remove those types of situations once they are posted online.
Okay, here's some tips that I kind of summarized for people who are doing reviews online. Don't feed the flames. If your friend needs to vent online, you can let them. You don't have to jump into the pile with them. So I've had, as an example, so a friend of mine was part of this whole online, remember there was a business thing that she was basically caught up in this whole, the business did a bad service thing and she got caught up in it, whatever. I happened to see that one of the girls who used to work for me was tagging her friend in it to let her friend know. So I took it upon myself, as opposed to me messaging, telling, yes, I to calm down and stuff. I messaged her directly, and I said, I know the people involved. There's more to this story. Just an FYI, in case you know of people who are trying to really make this snowball. So that's how I kind of put my 2 cents in without joining on the thing, is basically saying like, hey, hang on for a second. You know me. I'm not gonna bullshit you about this. I know there's more to this story, so just be careful of what you're sharing and stuff. So there's basically, it's regardless of who it is, just keep in mind that unless you were there, like a rumor, you shouldn't automatically just jump in and you mentioned earlier that focusing on the facts only.
Yeah.
So this happened, right? Is the person who's posting and venting the review something that happened to them? Or are they telling a story that happened to their friend, right? You always get the
telephone game.
Yeah. So this, last time my friend was there, right? And they do a little review about it. So you don't really know if that's the facts only. And the other thing is that if you want to leave reviews, the food was late, food wasn't good, or something was missing, if you're going to leave a review like that, but try to keep out the emotions part of it, right? Because it's very easy to get caught up, because once you start, right, you start, and then all of a sudden you're like backspacing, and then you're typing something else, and then you just get carried away, and that's what you always joke around about, like drunk texting. Same idea. Don't do drunk reviewing either.
Do you know? You may want to edit this. I don't know, but maybe not. My grandmother used to always tell me, if you're gonna stir the shit pot, be ready to lick the spoon.
Yes. Exactly. I'm keeping it in. Why would I take that out?
Right?
I think that should be t-shirt worthy.
Right? She used to always say that in her Gaelic accent. No, I'm just kidding. It felt like it was a Gaelic accent. I'm like, what?
I think I'm going to get a t-shirt made like that, and we should have it for giveaways.
There we go.
The flavor in the back. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get a t-shirt.
It's the first time I ever swear on this podcast.
She's so proud of herself.
So it's gonna say
Cynthia's gonna be cheering.
Now there's gonna be a review.
If you're ready to stir the pot, be
Ready to lick the spoon.
Ready to lick the spoon.
Okay, that could be the.
And then in the back, it's gonna say flying for flavor. Like, do you realize what we're licking off the spoon?
Oh, please. It's still the podcast. It's not beside it. It's at the back of the show. It's not like an auto signature. Good Lord.
It's my new mento. It's like...
She's got all her one-liners.
Right now and then.
Stacy and the Whiner, back. Okay. I think if you post a negative review and it was corrected since you posted it, or if it was a misunderstanding, please award the business with a retraction, clarification, positive review. So, just like journalists, when they post something in the paper and they get it wrong, you see they always put in like the next day or shortly after a little correction. I know it doesn't mean a lot because the original story is still there and still out there, but it still helps, especially if you go back to the same place you left the original review. If you have the option to edit it, you can say update and then add it to the bottom. Or if you have to, you can reference it and hit reply like you're commenting on your own review, and then just say, hey, just a quick update. You know, since this time I managed to finally get a hold of the manager and they actually did this or whatever else. And I'm really pleased, and we've been there since then and everything's been back to normal.
It'd be the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Especially if the business had the chance and actually took the time to rectify the situation. I think you need to let people know that you did it that way and how that situation resolved, like how they did it, right? If they reached out to you or if you had to chase them down for 3 weeks. I mean, those kind of things matter, right?
Absolutely.
But you got to keep in mind that businesses are run by humans. They make mistakes, and it's how they fix their mistakes, which is just as important as the business itself, right? So it also helps to focus to be on the overall performance of the business rather than just the negative reviews. There's a lot of times, so this is going to be my little, going back to here. So I had a little experiment I did for a year called Subway Secret Foodies, where I had 100 local diners who reviewed local restaurants, and I took all the data and compiled it so I could share it with restaurants privately, because a lot of times most of the people who leave these reviews are tourists. So people coming through town, or they were just here for the weekend. They don't usually visit this place. It was their first time or something like that. They're the ones who usually go on to Yelp, TripAdvisor, or whatever and do reviews. The locals, they go back again and again and again. And so they're not always sharing their thoughts. And you don't get to track to see how often they're going back and where their favorite places are. So I started collecting all the information, and I thought, oh, it'll be fun to have a Facebook page where I share the top 3 for the week on a certain category. I spent most of the last year editing out people's negative reviews of places. I had it moderated so that you couldn't post anything unless it went through me. But then I could also not. But people figured out very quickly that if they commented on someone else's post that I already approved, they could comment on it. Right. So I'd have somebody who would comment saying, I just had a great dinner. Here's a great photo at this new place that just opened. So yes, prove it, right? So it gets pictures on there. Someone decides to reply, and they started venting about a restaurant that they went to 2 weeks before about a bad dish that they had. And I went, no, this has nothing to do. Delete. And then I would get nasty messages saying, who are you to delete the message? Who am I?
I'm the administrator. It's my page.
It's my page. Oh no, I had people calling me fraud. I had people calling me crooked. I had all kinds of things. People are direct messaging me. They don't understand. It's like, no, I'm not running a Yelp site. This is not. They're very clearly at the top of the page. This is just a place for the positive results only. Right? Just to share with you and to cheer our local businesses on. This is not for you. You know, you have a gajillion other places. I don't think gajillion's an actual word, but gajillion other places that you can vent about that business. You're not doing it on my page. Anyways, I tried to control it, but after a year I just said, so the page is still active, but you won't see anything negative on it because I cleaned it all up.
I like it.
But yeah, it's just crazy. I should go check on it now. Now I'm getting paranoid. There's probably some on there and I missed. Okay.
I might have been one of them. You never know.
No, I would have told you. Share positive stories or reviews as often or more often than you share negative ones.
Absolutely.
I think that there's a lot of times that businesses are going above and beyond, or you have a server in a restaurant who does a phenomenal job, or a hotel actually comps your stay for the smallest little infraction or mistake on their part. And those are the situations that you might tell your friend, but rarely are you going to take that extra step and go onto a website and leave them a glowing review about how the situation was handled and the great service that you got. And people don't realize that to get those 4 and 5 star ratings, because sometimes people just look at the star ratings on things, right? That's just an average based on all of the things underneath. So if you only ever post negative stuff, or you do that 2/3 of the time, it's really not giving the true picture of what that business did, because there are just as many probably good things that happen there as bad things. So I think that taking that extra time to actually post something positive, I think, is worthwhile. And I think being balanced is fair. Right? So I think, yes, the whole idea of reviews is to inform the public. And so, yes, if you want to share an experience to let somebody else know what it was like to deal with that business, I understand the concept of it. I'm still being very cautious about it. However, I still think that both sides of that coin need to be acknowledged. If you see a review that is overly harsh and inappropriate, don't just ignore it, but report it to the site management of where you're reading it. So you see somebody being overly angry, inappropriate, rude, crazy remarks, racist comments, whatever you happen to see that you think is inappropriate on Yelp, TripAdvisor, Facebook reviews, whatever. Sometimes the algorithms don't catch it. Sometimes people just jump on the bandwagon. Sometimes people just comment to the person and say you're being too harsh, but don't do anything about it. So just like if you were in a store, in a restaurant, and you see something physically happen to somebody, taking that extra step to actually report it or call 911, same idea. Right. So if you see a negative review that's just like, okay, I think this crosses that line between sharing your experience and just being downright, I don't know if assholery is another word.
I love that word.
Yeah, assholery?
Assholery? I've got so many things I can use that for right now. It's not even funny.
We've just created a new hashtag. Hashtag assholery. Okay. It's going to be one of those shows. All right. So if you see that kind of behavior, please report it whenever you can, because some websites have policies in place. And if it matches the rules of, yes, you're right, we missed this one, they will take it down on their own. Sometimes you can't delete other people's reviews, but the website itself can if you report it. And also keep in mind, everyone has a camera nowadays. Yeah. It always surprises me. You see people doing stupid things online. And I was
afraid of my parking skills.
Oh, me too, especially when you have to parallel park.
I'm sorry.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at parallel parking, but never fails. There's probably always some guy sitting beside me eye rolling because I didn't do it fast enough, right? But I'm getting pretty good at it, actually. But I also have a great backup camera, so I'm not stupid. But just keep in mind that people are very quick to grab their camera to take clips of people doing something wrong, right? Server doing something badly. The one that circulated just recently about the guy trying to stuff the thing in his overhead compartment that didn't quite fit. Yeah.
Oh,
and it went viral.
Yeah. Yes.
So beside from just taking videos of people doing really stupid stuff, maybe you can start taking video clips of somebody going above and beyond, right? Absolutely. A restaurant server coloring with a little kid at a table, right? Like all these little examples of how somebody goes above and beyond at a restaurant. I think that could be actually another viral thing that would get you a lot of more likes.
Or even in any kind of like store that you're in.
Yeah.
Because I've had in the past when I've worked places, I've had reviews, positive and negative, about customer service skills. And the thing is that it affects your personal and professional appraisal at the end of the year. So if you have someone who's treated you really well, do a shout out, write the company, tell them something, tell the restaurant. They'll actually get a raise. They'll actually be promoted. Make sure you tell the positive as well.
Because a lot of times I know on cruises they do that, resorts, hotels, where there's always an opportunity. They're looking for feedback. When they ask you for feedback, it's because they want it. If there's a chance for you to give a shout out, or is there any particular staff member here? There's some chains that do that. I know hotel or resort chains that do that. They ask you to name somebody within the organization that really made your day. So I think that's a great opportunity for you to say, hey, yeah. I mean, I'm usually always giving a shout out to the guy who runs the pool bar. I admit it. You know, the guy who runs the swim up bar, if you know how to make some like half decent margarita on the rocks, you're my friend. And I will happily give you a shout out. That's how I know.
That's how we roll.
Priorities in my life, right?
It's important.
Okay, so because we were doing, besides the hashtag assholery,
And
It's perfect. I love it.
and if you stir the shit pot, you have to lick the spoon.
and if you have the stir
Flying
shit
for
button, yes,
flavor.
which we are going to make, stop it. We are going to, I'd like to start another hashtag. I'd like to do a hashtag each one to
Okay,
get people to
great.
comment on stories or topics that we're discussing. So if you have a story to share, if you have a great tip for either someone to handle online reviews or tips for people to how to write reviews with class, make sure you use the hashtag either on any of the social media channels of FFF, which is flying for flavor, and then the word viral, FVIRAL. So that's, you can see it on below here for those who are watching on YouTube, FFFVIRAL. Or you can always send us an email if you have a longer story that doesn't fit the 140 characters at flavor@stephaniepichet.ca. So a couple of things. I was hoping that we'd be just announcing an event today that I mentioned last week, but I barely got a chance to make the posters. And I barely got a chance to post it on the Facebook page this week. And we're already selling a ton of tickets already. It's a very small venue in Sudbury. We're actually doing an entire class on whiskey, which will be an upcoming episode. So if you happen to be in the Sudbury area, grab your tickets while you can. We might release additional tickets if the owners say that they can squeeze more people in. But essentially, you get to have the show. The Alibi Room will be creating 2 different whiskey-based cocktails for you to choose from with your ticket price. And then for those of you who are too scared to try the cocktails, I guess I'll let you have beer or wine that night. I'll have some apps and stuff for you to nibble on. Basically, you just get to watch the live show, and we're gonna have Dan Cronin, aka Dan Draper, who is back for our cocktails class. You'll remember him from that show, but he's actually going to be joining us for that episode, just to give us a whole primer on difference between Scotch and rye, and basically all those things about whiskey that you kind of always wanted to know, so that the next time you go into a bar, you can order, when to order things on the rocks, whether to order this kind of whiskey for a cocktail or when to have it straight up. So he'll kind of share all that information with us, which I think is a lot of fun. And we get to drink with a whole pile of listeners, which is always fun for us. Last time we did it, there was like tequila and margaritas flowing, so I don't know how this one's going to work. It'll be fun. So if you're listening from outside the Sudbury area, let us know where you want us to host the next one. We were just talking before we started recording the show that we're willing to go to outlying areas. If we know there's a bunch of listeners and there's a business that wants us to come in and feature something really cool, we're game. We're looking for suggestions, and we love to travel, so make sure you let us know. And so please rate and subscribe us, not just on YouTube, but on Apple Podcast or whatever podcast player you're listening to us on. Make sure you follow us, subscribe whenever you can, send us ratings. All of that information helps us grow and get to do more eating and drinking and traveling, and maybe eating, drinking, and traveling with you.
Yes.
That's the way it works, right? So now we're on audio and video, so there's no excuses anymore, right? So until next week, please be kind and take a breath. And make sure you cheer people on before you tear them down.
Yeah, do something positive.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Look at,
Cheers.
empty glasses. That's bad
Empty
form.
glasses.
Cheers.
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 What do you think about us podcasters doing this whole video thing? If you like what you see and you still have wine in your glass, there's more videos down below that you can always keep up. Or subscribe and you'll never miss another one.